From drilling in the most remote part of the world to sub-zero temperatures that freeze anything, and from the world's largest drilling equipment to discovering rocks not of this world, we look at the incredible story of the deepest man-made hole on Earth. Most people have wondered what you would find if you dig deep enough into the Earth's crust. If you ask anyone, they might tell you that you will probably find the devil standing at the gates of hell. Surprisingly, the deepest hole on Earth was dug around the 80s in Russia, and what they found would shock you. In our video today, we explore the myth and story behind the deepest hole on Earth. In the year 1970, Soviet scientists began one of the greatest and most ambitious drilling and mining experiments in human history in the Kola Peninsula, a drilling project that would go on to reach deeper into the Earth's crust than any other in history, setting a Guinness World Record that still stands to this day. Even now, more than 20 years after the cessation of all drilling activities at the borehole, which has been since welded shut, it is remembered as a grand scientific achievement. In its prime, the superstructure built around the rig on the Kola Peninsula was 20 stories tall, and over the course of its operation, it would house over 3,000 workers, operating in shift teams who are permitted to operate in or around the rig, comprised of leading geologists with specialists knowledgeable not only of how to operate a large drill, but also of what might be found beneath the surface. All of the workers lived in the tundra 6 miles from the nearest village, and when daylight gave way to darkness, the drilling project began. The project's immediate success was almost unprecedented. There were no initial problems, and the drills continued to bore into the earth, eventually reaching a distance of more than 7 miles. It was the most significant scientific achievement since the Americans successfully placed a man on the moon. The legends say that even though the temperature on the ground shouldn't have exceeded 392 degrees Fahrenheit, the temperature recorded at the end of the drill actually reached over 1,500 degrees. Allegedly, on the end of the drill was a microphone that captured the screams of tormented souls deep in the pits of Hades. These screams were relayed to observers on the surface who became traumatized by what they were hearing. An atmosphere of intense fear and worry enveloped the rig, and work was abruptly halted without notice, at least according to the report. Not many people believed the rumors at first, and the drill was restarted. However, in 1992, digging work at the Kola borehole was permanently halted at its deepest point because the temperature at the bottom of the hole was 350 degrees Fahrenheit, when scientists had expected a maximum temperature of 200 degrees. Nobody, including project head David Guberman, could explain why there was such a significantly higher temperature than expected, so those in charge concluded it was best to cease operations, and they did. Guberman told the borehole myths and stories till he died in 2011. He would take tourists to the location of the abandoned dig and tell them the story of how ignorant scientists bored a hole into the abyss, releasing spirits and demons from below. It's a fun tour that helped Guberman pay his bills, but it's not what occurred. It was intended to be a funny story, but something got lost in translation, and it was reprinted as fact by American newspapers before anyone had the chance to do any fact-checking. The story had gone around the world, and everybody knew the Kola super deep borehole as a haunted mine. The Kola Geological Exploration Expedition's commander, David Guberman, specialized in extreme deep drilling. The mythology that sparked the scriptwriter's imagination was born in the late 1980s. On April Fool's Day, a Finnish newspaper intended to surprise its readers by publishing information on subterranean groans and cries captured by Soviet scientists near the Finnish border. This joke got so popular that it spread over the internet, mainstream media, blogs, and countries. All attempts to refute the joke were futile, even years after one South African scientist was questioned about the details of the monster discovered in the Russian hole. Even now, vestiges of the mythology may be discovered on the internet. However, it's worth noting that the visuals for this Kola hole are typically derived from photographs of diamond pits. Given that the diameter of the super-deep borehole on the surface is no more than 1 meter, the filmmakers picked the Zornickel mine in Zapolyarny, which is located on the Arctic Ocean's coasts. Unfortunately, cinematography frequently chooses beauty and fantasy that can match an average person's imagination with the facts. This was a completely new science involving drilling to depths never attempted before, unimaginable pressure, and new technologies to bore the holes, battling high temperatures and resistant rock. The geologists pressed on, determined to reach their goal of going deeper into the Earth's crust than anyone had ever achieved previously. By 1979, they'd broken that world record, taking it from the Bertha Rogers Hole in the United States. By 1983, the drill had passed the 7.45-mile mark, and it was time to celebrate. Moscow announced the project's success, and scientists and dignitaries from around the world were invited to come to see the results for themselves. The great and the good descended on the Kola Peninsula to see the rig and study samples of rock extracted from incredible depths. No human eyes had ever seen rock created under these types of geological forces before. People wanted to visit them and spend time researching them, so work at the site was halted for a whole year to let these studies take place, which proved to be a disastrous choice when drilling resumed. In 1984, disaster was just around the corner when a 3-mile-long drill string, which is a hollow tube essential for keeping the drill lubricated and working, twisted off and became embedded in the hole. 5 years of work had been lost in an instant, and the only option was to restart drilling from a deeper depth. Borehole operators resumed the work and began to drill a parallel hole, beginning at a depth of 4.3 miles. It took them years, but they finally passed in 1989. They had exceeded the 7-mile mark once more at its greatest depth. The borehole measured 7.62 miles. Now that they had reached the depths once more, an additional investigation was feasible, and this time, Kola transformed into a type of time machine by delving so far into the ground underneath us. The drill and the hole could tell us a lot about what conditions were like on Earth billions of years ago, what our home was like when it was young, and how our planet came to be formed in the first place. As the data provided by Kola was examined in greater detail, it became clear that what we thought we knew about geology was wrong. The working models of the time were correct up to a depth of 4.3 miles, but then differences began to appear. Guberman would go on to explain that the expected transition from granite to basalt did not occur as he expected at this depth. He expected to find a discontinuity in seismic waves causing the transition, but instead discovered that the seismic waves are caused by metamorphic transitions within the granite rock itself. Additionally, the rock was full of water, which was unexpected because there was no route for surface water to penetrate. Instead, the water came from deep crust minerals that had been trapped under an impermeable layer of rock for billions of years. The age of the rocks and the depths of the borehole may be confirmed as being roughly 2,800,000,000 years old. Plankton fossils have been discovered 3.7 miles below the surface, lodged inside of these rocks, allowing scientists to assert with greater confidence when life first appeared on Earth. Massive amounts of hydrogen emerged from the hole, and no one knew why those who observed mud flowing from the top of the shaft reported it as boiling with hydrogen below the 5.6-mile level. Geologists were eager to analyze the rock that was brought to the surface. Some of them were the same individuals who had been working at Kola. They were astounded to discover that the composition of the rocks found at the 1.86-mile level below the Earth's surface were precisely the same as the composition of the moon. This offers support to a prevalent notion about how the moon was formed. Scientists had long assumed that the Earth was struck by an asteroid or similar celestial body billions of years ago, relatively early in its development. The impact was so severe that part of our home planet was broken away and became the moon. The Earth and its new moon gradually regained their spherical appearances over the eons that followed. Is it conceivable that the splintered piece of soil originated from the Kola Peninsula region? That would account for the similarity of the rock formations. So, What prompted the decision to close the Kola super deep borehole? We're aware of the temperature issue, but might they have dug another hole or used a different type of drill? It didn't appear like there was much point. All of the intended scientific goals had been met and exceeded. One of the reasons Kola occurred was because both scientists and governments wanted to test the capability of this type of drilling equipment in harsh environments. Because the tests had been passed, drilling capabilities had substantially enhanced, and there were no more rocks to gather. Everything geologists were likely to discover had been collected, cataloged, and properly kept. Kola has been carefully researched and informed us a lot about how our planet was created and the events that occurred over its long life. Work ceased as no new funding was provided, in part to all objectives of the drilling being complete, and more than enough information had been collected from the endeavor. As a result, the employees returned home. Today, the structure that formerly housed the drill site sits in the midst of nowhere as a ghostly reminder of what took place. The scale and magnitude are still spoken in near legendary terms. And if you enjoyed this video, we have another like it of the world's scariest archaeological discoveries ever found that I'm sure you'll enjoy watching.